My best friend, sister, and mom tried to break us up so I'd get back with my ex. Then it got even worse. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and lately I've been seriously considering cutting ties with my best friend Jenna, who's also 30. The reason? She just can't seem to stop bringing up my ex in front of my fiancée, and it's starting to really get under my skin. Now, I'm wondering if I'm overthinking it or if Jenna is genuinely out of line. For some background, Jenna and I go way back. We went to the same high school and later ended up at the same out-of-state college. We were just casual friends back in high school, but once we moved away for college, our bond grew stronger and we became inseparable. She's always had my back through life's ups and downs. Our relationship has never been romantic. She's honestly more like the big sister I never had, always keeping me grounded and looking out for me. Over the years, I've only had 2 serious relationships. One of them was with my ex, Rachel. We dated for about 7 years, starting in college. Jenna and Rachel actually became close friends during that time too. But after we graduated, Rachel and I naturally drifted apart. We had different visions for the future. While I got really focused on finishing my PhD and juggling a full-time job, she wanted to enjoy life and go out on weekends. Eventually, she ended things. It crushed me, but I didn't hold it against her. I understood that my choices were driven by ambition, and I didn't want to be the reason she missed out on her own happiness. Jenna was my rock back then. She comforted me and constantly reminded me that Rachel still loved me and might come back when the time was right. I clung to that idea for way too long and kept a friendly connection with Rachel, hoping something might rekindle. But that all changed when I met Emily, my now fiancée. After finishing my PhD, I landed a great job at a major tech company. Emily joined the team about a year after I did. We started going out for dinner and drinks, and it wasn't long before things got serious between us. We've built a solid relationship. We're in a good place financially, and we genuinely enjoy each other's company. Naturally, once I started seeing Emily seriously, I cut off contact with Rachel altogether. About a year into dating, I proposed to Emily, and we got engaged last year. That's when things started getting weird with Jenna. One of the first things she said to Emily after hearing the news wasn't congratulations. It was a comment about how I'd once planned to propose to Rachel on a hiking trail near town. That really threw me off. I mean, Rachel and I had ended things nearly 5 years ago, and this was supposed to be a happy moment for me and Emily. Emily told me not to let it ruin the mood. She thought Jenna was just trying to say I'd had this kind of romantic idea for a long time. I tried to brush it off, but since then, Jenna hasn't let up. Every time we hang out, she somehow manages to bring up Rachel. Whether we're talking about buying a house, planning a vacation, or even just talking about the future, Jenna finds a way to mention how I once had those same plans with Rachel. She always frames it with some sweet memory or nostalgia, and then slips in something like, "Remember how happy you two were?" On top of that, she still talks to Rachel regularly and keeps giving me unsolicited updates about her, how well she's doing at work, what new project she's leading, and so on. No one's asking for this information, and it feels like she's trying to sell Emily on this perfect version of Rachel, like she's saying, "Hey, just so you know, Rachel will always be the one he really wanted." Emily admitted to me that Jenna's comments were starting to bother her, and truthfully, they've been getting to me too. I've brought this up with Jenna more times than I can count. I've asked her straight out to stop bringing up Rachel in front of Emily. It just makes things awkward. But Jenna always brushes it off. She'll say something like, "I'll try," but follows it up with how Rachel was a huge part of my life for 7 years and naturally shows up in a lot of old memories. She even once asked me point blank why it bothered me so much, like maybe I still had unresolved feelings for Rachel or something. That honestly felt like a low blow. Since then, I've started pulling back from spending time with Jenna. But the tricky part is, she's super close with my mom and still gets invited to all our family events, birthdays, holidays, everything. I brought this whole situation up with both my mom and my sister, hoping they'd understand where I was coming from. Instead, they told me I was blowing things out of proportion. According to them, Jenna is just reminiscing, and since most of our shared stories come from college and the years right after, of course Rachel's going to be mentioned sometimes. They don't seem to get how uncomfortable it is for Emily to hear constant reminders of my past with Rachel, especially stories about how happy we supposedly were, how we were planning to get married, all that. From where I stand, it feels disrespectful to Emily. She doesn't need to hear about how Rachel and I used to be a great team when she's the one I've chosen to spend my life with. So now I'm stuck wondering, am I being too sensitive here, or is Jenna seriously overstepping? Update 1. About a month ago, I posted about how Jenna kept dragging my ex into conversations, even around my fiancée. I really appreciated everyone's input. So many of you pointed out how inappropriate it was. But honestly, this past month has been a roller coaster, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around what's happened. After reading your feedback, I sat down with Jenna for one last talk. I laid it all out and gave her a clear ultimatum. Stop mentioning Rachel around Emily, period. I told her I knew she and Rachel were still friends, but that didn't give her the right to keep comparing my current relationship with Emily to the one I had with Rachel. It's been 5 years since Rachel and I ended things. At this point, she's just a part of my past, nothing more. Jenna, of course, pushed back. She said it was unrealistic to expect her to erase Rachel from every story when she'd been in my life for most of my adult years. Then she accused me of being emotionally immature for wanting to pretend like Rachel never existed. That one stung. Eventually, though, she agreed to my terms. She said she wouldn't mention Rachel in front of Emily anymore, but also asked me not to treat Rachel like some ghost just because she's still part of her circle. I told Emily about the talk, and while she appreciated me standing up for her, she said I didn't even need to. She told me she knows how much I care about her, and every time Jenna brings up Rachel, she just feels bad for Rachel for letting a guy like me slip away. A couple of weeks later, Emily flew to China to handle wedding preparations. We're getting married in her hometown, so she's spending the month there doing everything from shopping to finalizing plans with her family. That Friday, Jenna invited me over for dinner since I was alone at home. I've always gotten along well with her husband too, so I figured it'd be a chill evening. We were in the living room chatting and having a drink when, around 7:30 p.m., the doorbell rang. Jenna jumped up and ran to answer it like she was expecting something exciting. To my complete shock, standing at the door was Rachel. She was all dressed up, like she was heading out on a date, and walked in smiling like it was the most natural thing in the world. I hadn't seen her in nearly 3 years, and I was caught completely off guard. She sat down and started making casual conversation with me, but I was way too uncomfortable to pretend everything was fine. I got up and went to the kitchen to confront Jenna. I asked her, "What the hell is going on?" She tried to downplay it, saying it's been years since Rachel and I broke up and that I should be over it by now. She said Rachel had been excited to see me and that we're all grown-ups, so why not just have a nice evening together? We argued. I reminded her of the conversation we had just days before, where she promised not to bring Rachel up again, let alone invite her over. I told her I didn't want to be friends anymore. Then I walked back into the living room, politely said I had a sudden work emergency, and left. Rachel looked disappointed, but I couldn't care less. I hadn't agreed to this setup and didn't want to be ambushed into hanging out with my ex. When I got home, I called Emily and told her everything. I've never heard her so furious. She said Jenna clearly had some kind of agenda and that talking about Rachel was one thing, but inviting her over without even asking me crossed a serious line. I felt the same way. The next day, I called Jenna and told her she'd gone too far and that I was extremely hurt. I stopped answering her texts and calls after that. I've completely cut her off. I also told my mom and sister about what happened, hoping they'd understand. Then last Sunday, my mom invited me over for lunch. I walked in, and guess what? Jenna was already there. I told my mom I didn't want to talk to Jenna and was about to leave, but she stopped me and asked me to stay for a family talk. I guess I'm a sucker for pain, because I sat down. My mom started in, saying Jenna has always been there for me and only wants what's best. She kept saying that she, Jenna, and my sister are the 3 women who love me the most in this world. Then Jenna started up with her own speech, saying I was making a huge mistake, that I never even gave Rachel a chance to speak, and that Rachel was ready now for something serious. According to her, this was life offering me a second chance, and I was too blinded to see it. My sister backed her up. She said they all thought Rachel was better for me than Emily, and kept going on about how Rachel and I just looked right together. Eventually, the conversation took a turn I wasn't prepared for. My mom started talking about how different our culture is compared to Emily's, and how hard it's been for her and my sister to relate to her. I asked what exactly she meant by different. That's when she said they don't always understand what Emily says, and they feel like they have nothing in common with her. Then she said something that made my stomach turn. She asked me to think about how beautiful my kids would have been if I had ended up with Rachel, and then added that if I marry Emily, our children will look different. I knew what she was trying to say, but I needed to hear her say it, so I pressed a little more. That's when she came out with it. She said my future kids would look Asian, with small eyes, and wouldn't resemble the rest of our family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her if the way our kids look was seriously more important than who they are. I told her Emily has a PhD, she's brilliant, and more than capable of raising smart, compassionate children. My mom shrugged it off. At that point, it became painfully clear this wasn't about Emily as a person. My mom just didn't want me to marry someone Chinese. Then she told me to forgive Jenna and said she had actually asked Jenna to talk to Rachel to see if she'd be open to getting back together with me. She was convinced that since I had once loved Rachel so much, the best thing for everyone would be for us to pick up where we left off. I've never been that angry in my life. I probably said a lot of things I shouldn't have, but I couldn't stay there a second longer. I left and didn't look back. I've been in a dark place since that conversation. I feel like I've lost my best friend, and now, after what my mom said, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to move forward. These are the women who raised me, who shaped me into the man I am today. And yet, all this time, they've been hiding how they really felt, pretending to support Emily while secretly trying to sabotage our relationship. I can't unhear their words. I can't unfeel the weight of that racism. I haven't told Emily about any of this yet. She comes back next week, and I'm thinking I'll wait and talk to her in person. But I already know how much it's going to hurt her. I'm just trying to figure out how to even begin. Thank you to everyone who responded to my last post. It helped more than I can say. But honestly, my life is a mess right now. And the thought of telling Emily everything and seeing the pain in her eyes, that's what I dread the most. Update 2. It's been 2 months since I first shared what was going on with Jenna and how she kept bringing up my ex Rachel in front of Emily. 2 weeks ago, I posted an update about how things had spiraled even further, how my mom, my sister, and Jenna were basically trying to push me back toward Rachel because they couldn't accept that Emily is Chinese. They pulled all this while Emily was out of the country visiting her parents. As I mentioned, I completely lost it that day. I stormed out and went no contact for several days. I ignored all their calls and messages. At first, they were furious, texting me about how I was being dramatic and didn't give them a chance to explain. But by day 3, the tone shifted. I think they realized they crossed a serious line. Suddenly, their messages were filled with apologies. Eventually, I replied. I told them I needed space, and under no circumstances were they to reach out to Emily. If either of us wanted to speak with them, we'd make the first move. Jenna, surprisingly, didn't reach out at all. 9 days ago, Emily came back home. I hadn't told her anything yet. I just couldn't figure out how. But she could tell something was off. One evening, she looked at me and asked what was going on. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her everything. I told her what Jenna did. She was furious, angry that Jenna would go that far. Then I told her about the lunch at my mom's house, about what was said, and how hurt I was. But instead of getting mad, Emily just looked at me and asked if I was okay. That moment broke me a little. For the next few days, I was more shaken than she was. Meanwhile, Emily was beaming, showing me photos from her trip, telling me stories about shopping for the wedding. It was surreal, seeing her so full of joy while I was carrying all this pain. Then, last Thursday night, she brought it up again. She asked how I was feeling about everything and what I planned to do about my family. I opened up, told her I didn't know if I could forgive them, that I couldn't believe they said those things about her, and that they wanted me to marry Rachel just because she's white. I also asked why she hadn't been more upset. That's when she told me something I wasn't expecting. When she first told her parents about me, they had the exact same reaction, but in reverse. They were deeply upset that she was dating someone who wasn't Chinese. Her family is very traditional, and they struggled to accept it. But after a few months, they came around. Now, they're the ones leading the charge on our wedding planning. She never told me any of this before, because she wanted me to feel welcome and loved by them from the beginning. She also admitted that she had always felt something was off with my mom, my sister, and Jenna. That they'd act super polite when I was around, but distant or cold when I wasn't. They never invited her to anything unless I was there. She figured it had something to do with her not being white, or not understanding certain cultural references. Still, she said she wasn't angry. Now that everything was in the open, she wanted to talk to them and show them that she's just as capable of being a great partner as Rachel or anyone else. She told me she didn't want to start a new life by breaking apart my old one. Despite my protests, Emily invited my mom and sister over for lunch on Sunday. She said we all needed to sit down, talk this through, and listen to each other. I wasn't happy about it, but she spent most of Sunday morning cooking, like she was preparing for something important. When my mom and sister arrived, there were tears right away. Apologies came pouring out. My mom apologized to both of us for what she'd said and promised not to bring it up again. My sister stayed mostly quiet but looked like she was holding back a storm of emotions. The rest of the afternoon turned into a mess of blame, regret, and awkward attempts at healing. After that intense lunch, things got even messier behind the scenes. My mom and sister shifted the blame onto Jenna. They said she'd been planting seeds of doubt for months, telling them Emily probably wasn't the right fit for me and wouldn't be able to blend into our family dynamic. Apparently, after I stormed out of that lunch, my mom and sister had it out with Jenna. And Jenna, in turn, tried to pass the blame to Rachel. According to Jenna, Rachel's been struggling emotionally for a while now. She told them that when she heard I got engaged to Emily, it made things even worse for her. Jenna said she assumed I was quietly miserable after Rachel left because I didn't date anyone for years afterward. But the truth is, I was just focused on finishing my PhD and building a solid career. I didn't have the time or headspace for dating, and I never felt the need to explain that. Rachel had convinced Jenna that I must still want to be with her, and that this was the moment to win me back. Jenna admitted she felt sorry for Rachel. She's been her close friend for a long time, and figured helping her reconnect with me might be a win-win for everyone involved. She thought she was doing the right thing. My mom and sister, though, weren't buying it anymore. They told us they think Jenna orchestrated the entire mess, and they were now urging me to cut her off completely. Both of them hugged Emily tightly, apologized again, and tried to reassure her they'd start making more of an effort. That's when Emily broke down. She started crying and promised she'd try even harder to be part of the family. The whole moment was just emotionally overwhelming. I felt like we were all carrying years of pain, assumptions, and unspoken judgments in that room. Even now, I can't say I fully believe my mom's sudden turnaround. I still carry a lot of anger toward her. But at the same time, I want Emily to be happy, and she seems committed to finding peace with everyone. So, for now, I'm following her lead. My mom invited us over for lunch next week and promised Jenna wouldn't be there. Jenna, for her part, still hasn't reached out, not to me, not to Emily. And honestly, I don't know what to do with all of this. I'm still angry, still deeply hurt, but I also see how much Emily wants to bring the pieces back together, and I don't want to block her effort to build the family she'll be marrying into. Thank you to everyone who's left comments and messages of support. It may sound small, but reading through them has meant a lot on the days when this whole situation felt too heavy to carry. So, guess whose mugshot just showed up on our local news site? Yep, Derek. I won't go into detail, but let's just say it had something to do with inappropriate content found across his work computer, personal laptop, and phone. I'll let you fill in the blanks from there. Apparently, he got arrested while on shift after the company's IT guy flagged something disturbing on his device. Tessa ended up calling Lily, one of her bridesmaids and the coworker I ran into recently, absolutely bawling. Lily told me about it because Tessa had mentioned how I always had this weird gut feeling about Derek, and maybe she should have paid more attention back then. Lily asked her what she meant, and that's when Tessa finally admitted the truth. She told Lily that she had lied to the entire bridal party about why I didn't attend the wedding. She confessed that it wasn't because I was in love with Derek, but because I knew about her affair. She came clean about cheating with that guy from work and admitted to making up the story to cover her own mess. Tessa also told Lily that after she and Derek got married, he became physically aggressive, saying the cheating had pushed him over the edge emotionally. But he apparently waited until after they were officially married to really let that anger out. When I asked Lily if Tessa was still seeing the coworker she had the affair with, she told me Tessa insists they're just friends now, but yeah, they still hang out. That was apparently a huge source of tension in her marriage, and why Derek was so resentful toward her. Then Lily told me that Tessa had asked if I might be willing to talk. She didn't message me directly, but Lily said she could try and feel things out. I told her not to bother. And Tessa? Still silent. I don't know if she'll ever reach out, and honestly, I'm not sure what I'd do if she did. I'm hoping she just leaves it alone. Some of you asked how my boyfriend reacted when I told that bridesmaid the truth. So for what it's worth, I did talk to him. He said he was mostly worried that, in the moment, it might have looked like I was trying to hurt Tessa and Derek, and didn't want anyone twisting it. I get that, and for now, I'm letting it go. He's been great otherwise, so I'm choosing not to read too much into it, unless he gives me a reason to. Update, April 16th, 2025. Tessa finally reached out. I honestly didn't think she would, but last night, out of the blue, she texted me asking if we could talk. I replied, "Is this about your husband being in jail?" And she immediately called me. She was sobbing on the phone, saying she never saw this side of Derek coming and wished she had listened to me all those months ago. I told her I was sorry she went through that, and that I genuinely didn't know what he had been involved in either. But then, She started talking about how she's a hot divorcee now and said something about how this whole thing had freed her, as if she hadn't been cheating the whole time anyway. The lack of self-awareness was wild. And then, like nothing ever happened, she asked how I was doing. I brought up what she had told the bridal party, that lie about me being in love with her fiancé, and asked if we were going to talk about that. She actually laughed, then asked if I was really still upset about something so minor, after everything Derek ended up doing. That was it for me. I just hung up the call. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have had the strength to end it right there if it weren't for so many of your comments in the last post, telling me not to give her another second of my time. And you were right. She doesn't care. Not after everything we went through. She showed me who she is. I blocked her number. I have no idea if she's tried to reach out again, and I don't really care. As far as I'm concerned, I'm done.